Rain. It always seemed to fall harder when James Carter had nowhere to go. The gray skies over Cleveland wept steadily as the former U.S. Marine trudged through the cracked sidewalks of an old industrial neighborhood. His boots, once shining black during his days at Paris Island, were scuffed, waterlogged, and flapping at the soles. He carried a tattered military backpack, worn down from years of use, with faded patches and a broken zipper that he'd repaired with string. James had once been the embodiment of American pride. A decorated veteran. Bronze Star. Purple Heart. 9 years of active duty, 2 tours in Afghanistan, and a final year as a field instructor. But none of that mattered now. Civilians didn't see his service, they saw the beard, the ripped coat, the eyes haunted by memories he rarely spoke about. They saw a homeless man. And sometimes, they saw something even worse, a burden. He passed a row of closed shops. An old couple glanced at him as they walked by. Then crossed the street. He didn't blame them. He couldn't even remember the last time he'd looked in a mirror, let alone shaved. But James Carter wasn't just hungry for food. He was hungry for something harder to come by, dignity. The shelter he usually went to was full that night. He'd gotten there late after trying to help another veteran whose sleeping bag had been stolen. So James spent the night under a highway overpass with a rolled-up tarp and a half-finished cigarette someone had thrown away. He kept his dog tags tucked into his chest, not out of pride, but protection. He hadn't seen his daughter in 3 years. The last time they spoke, she said, "Dad, I love you, but I can't watch you destroy yourself." And just like that, another thing he'd lost. Along with his house. His car. His job as a security guard. His VA appointments. He rubbed his temples as the early morning traffic buzzed above. His stomach growled. A painful reminder that he hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon, and even then it was a half-eaten donut he'd found behind a bakery. That morning, something changed. James stood up, brushed off the dust, and decided, I need to sit somewhere warm. Even if it's just for coffee. That decision would change his life. The diner wasn't anything fancy. It was one of those chrome-outlined, neon-signed American classics from the 1950s, called Sonny's All Day Eats. Locals loved it. Tourists ignored it. And James hadn't stepped inside in years. The door jingled as he entered. It was warmer than he expected, and the smell of bacon, syrup, and coffee hit him like a wave. His stomach churned with anticipation. He sat quietly at a corner booth, clutching the $2.13 he'd scraped together over the last 3 days. Maybe they'd give him toast. Or coffee. Or nothing. He waited for a few minutes before a waitress walked over, clipboard in hand. Her name tag read Tracy. She looked down at him with a blank expression. You planning to order something? She asked. James nodded slowly. Just a coffee. That's all I can afford. She frowned. You know there's a minimum for table seating, right? He nodded again, quietly, without meeting her eyes. She huffed and walked away. James sighed and glanced around the room. Families were eating pancakes. Kids laughed. A couple clinked forks over a shared plate of eggs. And here he was, a ghost among the living. Then the manager arrived. A tall man in a pressed shirt and a tie too tight walked over briskly. His name tag read, Ken, floor manager. His eyes scanned James with disapproval. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, he said, voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. We've had complaints. James looked up, confused. Complaints? Ken folded his arms. You're making other customers uncomfortable. This isn't a shelter. A man at the counter, middle-aged, business casual, expensive watch. Snorted. Yeah, get him out of here. Smells like a dumpster. James stood up slowly, humiliated. He held up the coins in his hand. I just wanted a coffee. Well, Ken said, maybe next time bring enough for a shower too. That was the final blow. James turned toward the door. His vision blurred, not from the rain outside, but the shame burning in his chest. But fate had something else in store. The door of the diner jingled again. A man stepped in wearing a charcoal gray suit, neatly tailored. His shoes were polished, his hair combed with military precision, and his presence radiated quiet authority. He walked in with the calm confidence of someone used to commanding rooms, but without the arrogance of demanding them. As he entered, Ken the manager barely glanced at him. He was too focused on shoving James toward the door. "You need to leave," Ken repeated, his voice harder this time. "We don't want a scene." "Excuse me," the man in the suit said, speaking clearly and directly. Ken turned around. "Sir, give me just a second, we're handling a situation." "You are," the stranger said. "But not very well." James, already half-turned toward the door, paused. The suited man stepped forward and looked James in the eye. "Sergeant James Carter?" James blinked. "Yeah, how do you know my name?" "Robert Elston," the man said, extending his hand. "My younger brother served with you in the 4th Battalion, Kandahar. He used to talk about you all the time." The entire diner seemed to freeze. Even Tracy, who had been whispering with another server, turned to listen. James hesitated, then slowly shook the man's hand. "Your brother was Danny? Danny Elston?" Robert nodded. "You saved his life. Pulled him from a burning Humvee when everyone else had retreated." Ken tried to step in. "Sir, this man doesn't have money to eat here. If you want to talk to him, maybe take it outside." Robert looked at Ken like he had just spoken a different language. "I'm buying him lunch. And while we're at it, I'll cover everyone in this diner." Gasps rose from the nearby tables. Robert added, "But if Sergeant Carter isn't welcome here, then neither am I." He looked around at the stunned faces. "Anyone else have a problem with that?" Silence. James sat back down, stunned. Robert slid into the booth across from him. Tracy, suddenly all smiles, came over to take their order. "Whatever you want, James," Robert said. "It's on me." James ordered eggs, toast, and coffee. It had been months since he'd eaten a proper breakfast. They talked quietly as the rest of the diner buzzed with whispered chatter. Some customers stared. Others avoided looking at all. Robert asked about James' life since the war. James hesitated, then told the truth: the failed job at the warehouse, the injuries that kept him from working heavy shifts, the missed VA appointments, the time on the streets. "I didn't fall all at once," James said. "I fell in pieces. Every time I thought I could get back up, something else gave out." Robert nodded. He didn't offer pity. Just a listening ear. Then he said, "I run a non-profit in Columbus. We help veterans transition back to civilian life. Housing, job placement, mental health. You belong with us." James blinked. You want me to come work with you?" "No," Robert said. "I want you to live again. And then, if you want to work with us, we'd be lucky to have you." An hour later, they stood to leave. The diner was still quiet. Ken avoided eye contact. As James walked out beside Robert, someone at a booth stood up. It was the man who'd mocked him earlier. He said, "Hey. I didn't know you were a vet." "Sorry, man." James didn't reply. He just walked out with his head up. The sky outside had cleared. The rain had stopped. For the first time in a long while, James Carter felt the sun on his face, and he let it stay there. The Columbus Hope Center stood on a quiet block of East Broad Street, flanked by maple trees and a small garden tended by veterans. James arrived in Robert's car, still wearing his old boots and coat. He felt out of place, but Robert walked beside him without hesitation. Inside, the center was bright, clean, and warm. A receptionist smiled and waved. Murals lined the walls, painted by veterans, each telling a piece of their journey. James saw one with a burning Humvee, another with an eagle carrying a soldier to the light. Robert introduced him to the staff, social workers, counselors, fellow vets now employed and thriving. Every handshake James received was firm. No one looked away. James was offered a hot shower, fresh clothes, and a room with a real bed. It was quiet. Clean. Private. He hadn't slept in a bed in over a year. That night, as he lay under warm covers, James cried, not from sorrow, but from overwhelming relief. The days that followed weren't easy. James went through counseling. He was diagnosed with severe PTSD, which he already suspected, and began treatment. Group therapy helped. Talking to people who had walked similar paths began to chip away at the stone around his heart. He helped in the center's garden. He joined morning fitness walks. He even gave a speech at a small veteran outreach dinner. For the first time, he told his story, not just the battlefield medals, but the failures, the pain, the regrets. People clapped. Some cried. And after the event, a young man approached him and said, "You just described my dad. I'm going to go call him." James smiled. "Tell him it's never too late." One rainy afternoon, James stood by the window of his room, holding his daughter's old photo. He picked up the phone. Hands trembling. It rang 3 times. "Hello? Amy, it's me. It's Dad." Silence. Then, "Dad. I'm getting help. I'm clean. I'm safe. I'm trying." More silence. Then a sob. Then, "I missed you." James smiled through his tears. "I missed you too." They talked for 20 minutes. She wanted to visit. She was proud of him. For the first time in years, the word hope meant something real. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories that just might change how you see the world.